Hello and welcome. I'm Thomas. This is channel called
Wonder of Existence.
Yes, thank you very much. Today we're going to discuss further another topic of ours, very famous topic, very special topic, which is reality. It's been on our head since couple of times, since couple of videos. I'm just curious if there's anything else we would add up on top of that. I know that here it has something to say. What is it? Here it.
Yeah, it's the problem of the modern physics. The Einstein and all those guys who did the 20th century physics change, and a problem with that is the problem of the measurement of realities. So we did talk about different realities, and the problem is that you have instruments, you made instruments in this reality, and you want to discover maybe realities that are of another level. So that problem I would like to talk about. Maybe I talked with Mike about it time ago. So maybe you can explain this in English very good. This problem.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
But let me just interrupt you for a second. So what you're trying to say that all kind of tools we use in our physical reality doesn't necessarily need to fit into the external reality or different reality, which is not our
but it is a problem like that. Any tools we use for measuring or observing, okay, we observe with our senses. We create understanding of the wider universe using maths or microscopes and other measuring systems to try and discover atoms and particles and things, and the CERN collider, breaking particles apart to find smaller particles. All these measuring systems are still based in this world, so all we're going to get is results that make sense to the measuring instruments of this world. It doesn't get us any closer to what the real outer reality is beyond this.
But so even this, the thought belongs. We did talk about the thought, and the thought belongs to this world too. But they forget they start always with a thought.
Well,
if you make a measure.
Does the thought belong to this world?
Well, we use it it's a tool of this world too.
Yeah.
But we don't. Does not belong to the senses. We use in the thought. We use the senses, the information from the senses. We organize them with a thought. Yeah. But if it's from this this level, physical, or it's a question. But that's a problem that they forget that they start with a thought.
Yeah, I mean, I had a sort of analogy there about when because I'm interested in dreaming, and I'm exploring dreams by dreaming, and a lot of people, the sort of qualified dream experts, are exploring dreams by studying the brain. Well, that to me is akin to trying, study the back of a television or the inside of a television or inside a computer to find out where the programmer is or where the information comes from. You can do it till you're blue in the face, or you're never, ever, ever, ever going to find the programmer by looking inside the machine. So doctors and neuroscientists have said, like if I poke here in the brain, your arm flips up, or you have this image of something,
or religious feeling,
or a religious feeling. Therefore, it's the brain that creates that religious feeling, and it's not. It's just like turning a dial. If I put a screwdriver into the back of a television and touch something, I might tune into a different program, and I say, okay, see, the program must be in the television, but it's not. It's just an effect. and you're altering the receiving system, but it doesn't get to the truth of what's outside, or where that the underlying reality is. And that is the problem with all measuring systems that we have here. We invent with maths. You invent maths. You discover maths, and you find that some things work. So you stick with the formulas that work, and then you create something else. You create another formula to find something else, and it doesn't work. So you discard that, and you carry on until you find one that works. You know, so you're always going to find something. But it's only going to be what you're looking for and what you expect in terms of the measuring system that you've used.
Yeah, and what does physicists say when there is a math formula? They think then if it fits, then it's reality.
Yeah.
And there is no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So that's a problem, I think, with exact science as physicists think they are.
Yeah, I mean it creates an answer that you can use and you can build on to utilize in this particular reality, but it's only one answer. There might be different answers in different directions, and but you don't go there because you've only got the measuring instruments from this.
Yeah.
So, and that's the problem with the acceptance that if this works, then this must be the truth.
The truth, yeah.
You know?
So, like Einstein started with his 3 articles in 1905, I think. And then he was the most famous physician of the 20th century, and he with math he calculated the size of an atom. And then I think, well, you first have to prove that an atom is a reality, not only a thought. I always remembered that people told me an atom is a model of thought that's built on reality. And that's what I understood. Oh, it's a model, it's a thinking model and not reality. But he calculated a size of atoms. And then you're famous physician. So they wanted to have something under the reality of whatever physical object, and then they're content with that calculation, and well, they know that very old philosopher Pythagoras, he was I think 600 before Christ, he had some system with math that was, he said, all beautiful things they are they fit into math. But he had some religious. He thought about gods, and his vision on reality was not only math, was a religious system too. And then the modern physicians, they know this Pythagoras math, but they say, well, the math is okay, but the rest of the system is sectaric, and he didn't understand reality. And I think, well, why do you believe one part of it, and the other part you'd think he's a fool? So that's difficulty with modern scientists. They talk about doubting and looking with an open eye, but they don't see their own wishes. Well, we want a reality that has a math kind of fitting, and the rest we don't take that. We won't take that for serious. So that's a problem with modern scientists. They talk about doubting, but they don't practice it. For they know these atoms are reality. And well, there were in that time physicians and philosophers that didn't believe in atoms, but 1905, it just changed, and everybody thought these atoms. And it's some sort of, it's not a reality. It's a reality. You can build atom bombs with it. You can build very, very, very fast computers with it. But for me, all the bank crisis they could build with it, with the computers. But for me, these are monsters of lack of morality. And what do we need to well, maybe a lock or a garden for it, like we have those animals, the wild animals in Artis in Amsterdam. Well, maybe we can have some. Well, we can look at monsters created by this vision on the world. It's a problematic vision. It creates monsters, and we don't see it as monsters. These help us with making life more easy than we had before. So for me that's a great problem in that way of looking at reality.
But if you call it monster, it's something negative, I guess.
It's really negative. Atom bomb, maybe it's not a problem. Fukushima, you can see it as a problem.
Okay,
but maybe the computer, you don't see it as a problem and a monster.
If it's something negative, I would say that then we follow some not correct path. What I'm saying is, like, if you look at last hundreds of years and the development of our societies, it's a huge, actually massive, gigantic move. Not necessarily in a good way. Or let's say like this: you've got once again some advantages and disadvantages. How I see it is like we sort of disconnecting ourselves by using technology. We disconnect ourselves from spiritual world, but at the same time we gain some other things. Our civilization is getting bigger and bigger, stronger and stronger. We can perform more and more tasks and activities, and we actually physically start doing less and less. And that's what human beings want to do. They don't want to work, physically work. So we create robots, computers, programs, whatever.
Cars.
All these cars.
That's a more simple car. And
all this help
trains,
us in our physical
airplane.
reality simply do less, physically do less. To such an extent that some people, like me, for example, sitting all days long in front of computers, I need to push myself to perform some exercises because my body asks me to do some exercises. Because
so you're conscious of the negativity.
So I'm conscious of this negative part, but the positive is like we discussed last time. When you go to Paris, you go in one day. If you use a plane, you go in 2 hours. If you use your bike, you go there 13 days, 14 days, 2 weeks. And if you walk there, like thousands of years ago, you need months to get there. So, you've got pluses and minuses always.
Yes.
So I wouldn't say that this is something negative, and I wouldn't call it monster, but, in terms of, if you look at the societies or tribals living in the Amazon area, some in Peru or Brazil or whatever over there in South Africa, they've always been very spiritual. I mean, not only them, because actually entire humanity on the earth was more close to the earth. They were calling it ghosts of the earth, or they got all kind of set of gods, right? There was no just one god. They were using only clean I mean like natural ingredients, right? Like dragging something from the tree, picking up some parts of the nature. What we do is, in order to develop some new technologies, we need to destroy part of the nature, and that's what we do. For example, with creation of batteries, the electric batteries. We destroy our nature. That's negative side of it. Positive side of it is we don't have to use the fossil is it called? Fossil, which means that all those elements like oil, gas, all this, which while burning, it creates a lot of fumes and pollution and etc. We've been doing it for hundreds of years now, literally, right? I think it's starting in 18th or 17th century even, using coal and etc. So that creates a lot of pollution. We are aware of that, so we're switching now to the different technology. This technology is even better because you can use your car, which is almost doesn't create a noise. So it's almost noiseless. It gives you more comfort, gives you a lot of additional features, but you still use the natural resources of the earth.
Yeah.
But there's another. It's more. Well, if you have all those devices that make it life easy for you, what happens then? Then you have to be happy. That's the problem, and that's what you see in these times. That lots of people have problems with what is the sense that we are doing here. So maybe that's one of the monsters. The monster is not a monster like the dragons in old times, but the monster is very silently looking good, but that feeling of senseless, this life is nonsense, what I live, well, I want to be dead, what should I do? This is a huge problem in these times, and maybe that's I don't know.
The
I'm
monster,
sure.
I think the monster analogy comes over calling it a monster is because it takes control, and once it takes control and defines the person, then the person's lost control to the technology, and then it is a monster because it's controlling. But if you can understand the technology and use it to your advantage, it's not a monster. But
Lots of people who are not.
We're slaves to them.
Yeah.
But that's the point. There's a group of people
Addiction.
who create the new monsters, let's go like that, which are not monsters to them, but they are monsters to some group of people who don't follow this direction, right? Let's say people who live in the forest, they just want to live their simple life, just eat, enjoy, and get some sunburn, and that's it. And if they exposed to new the trees being cut because the city needs to be enlarged, and those people need to run away, or they are treated like a pain on the earth of this society, like which is weird to me, essentially. Then something's wrong with it, and I agree. And still, I think that we need to follow that path. If we don't follow that path, just imagine what would have been now us as a humanity. Probably climbing on the trees, just walking around. I don't know. But I'm not saying that's wrong. Maybe that would be great. Just enjoy your family. Give a hug to your family. And have a sunburn and bath. I mean, and that's it.
But I agree with
relax.
you. We have to follow this technical path, but with consciousness. Follow this path and knowing what it does to us.
But that is why we have to follow this path, and it's not a sort of choice. It's not like we need to go this way because it benefits us. Yeah. No, this is the way we go because this is the way we've gone. This is the natural instinct of consciousness of mankind, is to grow and develop and expand and evolve. So we're on this path because we're on this path, and that's a natural thing. And the negative and the monsters that come from it are part of the path. Yeah. You got to expect them, and then the task is to overcome them. Yeah. So you're right. We couldn't stay in the trees. We couldn't stay in the forests and not develop. That's not mankind's way. There's always going to be somebody or some part of consciousness that wants to evolve. We're curious creatures, and that's exciting, and that brings up new things, and then you want to develop those, find new things, and that's just the way we are. And we have to go through this period of losing control, to understand that we're losing control, so that we can take back control, and then and contain our own enthusiasm and our own curiosity. But this is an evolution process as well. This is mankind on a wave, we're down here, or we're up there with the nature, then we come down, we go up with technology, whichever way you perceive it, and then we've got to go through that dip to get onto the next wave of understanding the technology, so we can then go into the next wave, and it's a natural process. You could call them monsters. I don't think it's anything. It's negative to this particular time and period, but I don't think it's ultimately like this, because there is no negative and positive. It's just a flow.
It's against the. I call it monster because most of the time it's too the view on it is too positive.
Yeah.
And we don't see the what it causes.
No.
So the depression, hunger in the world. We don't see that slavery in Congo when all those telephone, what is it for metal? They get out of mines, and the young boys have to go into mines when they're 10 years old, and when they're 16-year-old and grown up, they don't fit into the mines, and then they die with 30 because they have dust lungs.
Yeah, just so we can have our telephones.
So that we can have our telephones. Well, these are things that we have to do something with it. It's not only negative, but we don't think that it's not high culture. I think in 100 or 200 years they will see it as a really primitive,
but that's the
egoistic culture.
Yeah, it's arrogance. And we need to get over that, but we can't get over it until we've experienced it.
No, exactly.
It's the same with the COVID thing now. You know, we needed this to understand what we're losing and what we've got.
I still not sure if I can agree with some aspects, because you're saying, for example, that there are some boys mining some elements from particles or minerals from the earth, and it kills them. But they've got a job. I know they're not well paid. They maybe got some $1 to survive per day. But we basically miss the data which we could use to compare the current situation with the situation 2 or 3 or 500 years ago. Because I don't believe that 500 years ago the situation in Africa was better than it is now. Those kids, they were not mining, but they were struggling to get a food. Women were giving birth to 10, 15 kids, knowing that probably only 5 of them will survive. So the death numbers, I think, are still lower than they used to be in the past, which means that we're still progressing, even though that we perform all our tasks and we see that we are killing some creatures like animals, or we're even killing ourselves. But we're still progressing. I think if you look 2,000 years ago on the brutality of humanity and of all those acts of survivals and all this, it's pure hell comparing to how it is these days. That's how I see it. Even though we've got Mr. Putin, for example, saying this or that, or we've got Mr. Biden, or whoever else, and you've got Turkish this and Polish this or whatever, we still don't kill people, at least directly these days anymore. At school, I tell the children, I make what is the buskruid? What's the name?
Gunpowder.
Yeah. I make that with the children. I just tell them, around 1400 in Europe, in Western Europe, they invited the cannon. They could make other weapons with it, and that changed the society totally. So it has a positive effect, but in the 500 years after it, we reached World War I. Never in history so many young men died in 5 years. Then we get World War II. Then we get in World War II, in the end, we get the atom bomb. We could, with one bomb, we could just destroy
Yeah.
one part of Japan with 1 million people or 2 million. I don't know how many people who live there in Hiroshima. So now it's not a culture. It's not a civilization. It's a civilization that has death in it, lots of death, and it has the challenge. Well, now we have to talk. We can't.
And say death is more. It's got destruction in it.
Destruction in it. Yes. So lots of destruction.
But destruction has always been there.
But if you have to die, if you have a quarrel in your game of the telephone, and you have to do it with a sword in your hand, sword, then it's different than when you have a gun with 30 bullets in it, and you can just and. When World War I was...
Well, that's correct, but that's about how you kill people. But the number of people, I don't think it's higher than it used to be in the past, because we still miss the data from the past. What we have is just books, some documentation, which doesn't provide us really real information about how
we have
many
the
people
information
died
of now.
in the
You're
past.
proud of the lots of death.
There's a question that information, because is it real?
No, I'm proud of the fact that
the story
computers,
that we've got of the past, we don't know.
the computers help us to gather information. We can collect it, we can consume it, we can turn it around and present it in the way that we can understand what it gives us. Whilst in the past, if we compare to, let's say, 1,000 years ago, I tend to say that I don't agree with what you said in terms of the number of people dying these days is high, or let's say we got
20th
the first,
century.
or 20th century, because we got the first words, second and or maybe third soon.
Oh, you have Cambodia, you have Pol Pot, and you have Mao, who
but
took millions of deaths.
But if you look at in the past, let's go back to the 13th, 14th, 15th century, the medieval times. We got the Inquisition, so-called Inquisition.
Mm-hmm.
In the name of Jesus Christ, let's kill all pedestrians, they all unbelievers, because they believe in the God of the wood, God of the sun, and etc., etc. And they believe that they the only one who know the truth. And in the name of the God, they were killing people legally, and they killed millions of millions. I don't believe that the Second World War killed more people than those raids of people in the past. Yes. But we miss this data. We don't have them because we didn't have computers. Now we can only compare apples to apples. In the past we were comparing oranges to apples.
Yeah.
So that's why I see a huge advantage in computers. And I'm not saying that computers are the cure for everything, but I think that by having the computers, it's better than not having them. Because there's way less can happen to us while we have computers than other way around.
The advantage I see of computers, or certainly the internet, is that you can search alternative sources of information and make up your own mind. Whereas before you were dependent on whatever information was given to you, and you didn't even have the concept that there might be another story, an alternative story, the other side of the story. And especially if you couldn't read or write, then you had to wait till the newscaster came around to the village and started telling you what was going on in the next village. So in this day and age, because the world being able to move around so easily, because nobody wants to stay in their own village anymore. It's useful to have more sources of information. So much that we can lose ourselves in it, because then it's up to us to learn to navigate it. So it's another process in this evolution, but it's certainly an advantage. I'd rather have lots of information, I can't trust any of it, than have one source of information and believe in that without any way of doubting it or questioning it.
But I think I decided as a child. My father was a new instrument, the television, and I decided as a young boy, 12 years old, I think, 13, that I didn't want the information of the television too much, because I wanted to live. So that's what the difficulty is with the all those information sources. You in the end you're totally on your own, based on your own. You have to make some sort of you look around and how do I find myself in this world with that lots of information.
I think this is a matter of choice. Just what you prefer. You prefer to perform some things like you used to do, or your parents used to do, or perhaps you want to go with new technologies, which allows you to look at the new, or let's say open up new paths for you to see the information in a different way, or the faster way, or whatever. But I think for now it's good to stop this. Let's say park it. Because I think that the reality is a topic that we can really discuss forever.
But everything touches it.
And we go up and down, and I'm pretty sure that we've got all those arguments and disarguments. That's also great. But let's park it for now. Let's get back to each other next time. So thank you very much, Mike and Geert. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. So thank you very much, and see you next time.